Will do.
All right, so here we are with our April Empower Hour. And the intention of these is really to stimulate conversation and ideas around actions that we can take that would make a difference, whether it's just even in our own personal life, which I think is where it has to start, or that it inspires us to take some kind of action in our family, community, our world, our environment. Sometimes I feel that where that place needs to happen is through stimulating conversation, through being able to recognize where we have to learn that there have been some habitual patterns that might have led us to a more narrow view of things, to unlearn some of that and then relearn so we have a more expansive approach to what we can do with our own life and within the world. And I have found that conversation is that starting point. So even as it is, this nice group we have here amongst us to talk, my hope is that, yeah, we let this ripple out in any way that makes sense for us. I'll briefly read what I had here for the topic for today and then get the ball rolling. And actually, before I do that, let's take a moment to center. I feel like that's always a bit helpful. So wherever you are, if you're able to feel whatever part of you is connecting the ground, could be your seat, your feet. You might feel comfortable, if it's safe with whatever you're doing, to let the eyes close or look low to the ground. Otherwise, focus as you need to. Sense this connection to the ground is a connection with the earth. So whether we're directly touching the soil or if we just know that below us, below whatever we're in, is touching the ground, we are relating to our Mother Earth in this moment. As it is with all relationships, imagine now that the earth is relating back to us. This two-way journey of any relationship. We can acknowledge that in that two-way relationship, there's information to be exchanged. In this moment, our information, this limited self that is, and then welcoming this great wisdom of the earth meeting us. We may not be able to feel the pull of gravity, but I think we all recognize that is happening in this very moment. This pull towards the earth to keep us connected. There's also this pull towards the sky above, towards the cosmos, something that brought us into this upright position. Feel the self lifting, lengthening in that way. And we feel that relationship as well. And now tune into the breath. Simply notice the movement of inhale with exhale. This flowing constant that is for as long as it is. For as many years as we will get to experience the self in this body, there will be a connection to that flow. Imagine this flow is simply one of our teachers, reminding us there is an inhale, there is an exhale, until there isn't. Things expand, things will contract until they don't. Focus back in on your current time breath. Follow that inhale into that exhale. Feel the body connecting to the ground or whatever's closest to the earth. Then bring yourself right back into the here and now by slowly opening the eyes if they were closed, looking low to the ground. And then looking around the space you're in. Again, only if that's safe to do, look around. And here we are, back together. So the topic, life is a pile of soil. This month we recognize Earth Month. And rather than life being a pile of something else, what if it could be summed up that life is a pile of soil? Soil is a rich, fertile ground that is alive, filled with organisms ready to support and sustain a regenerative life cycle. To one person, soil might be as good as a pile of crap. And some days life feels like that too. To someone else, this pile is the starting point for an amazing garden that could support people for generations if cared for properly. But soil can become exhausted and over-farmed. It can become depleted, no longer giving the intended nutrient that grows from it. In today's discussion, we'll review some parallels in our relationship with the planet and our own self-maintenance. We might learn that we're in more danger of depleting human life than in destroying the Earth. Mother Earth has survived for over 4.5 billion years and is much more resilient than human life. And it continues to increase as we continue to increase our footprint on it. Mother Earth has shown us what we step on and often neglect and often mistreat is more intelligent and complex than we usually know how to give credit. We might establish greater peace from studying the natural world more than worrying about how to satisfy our human cravings. I thought about this, of course, the idea of Earth Month and thinking about how can we directly relate to the Earth. I talked about this in class today, that I often look at many things in our world as our teachers. That can be our friendships, our family can become our teachers. But so can the difficult and challenging moments of life can become our teachers. The painful things can become our teachers. And then I also acknowledge that the planet Earth can be one of our best teachers. It has an incredible wisdom that has enabled it to be sustained for so many billions of years, and also that it's a friend of the galaxy, and the galaxy that's been around for, I don't even know how long it said that it's been around, but for a long, long time. So I think we have a lot we can learn if we look out into the world and beyond about what is life, what is the meaning and purpose. But because of our limited individual selves and because of our ego mind, and because of our desperate attempt to want to find meaning, we reach for things and try to start to make sense. And then that becomes so powerful that it might actually even distract us from what might be the most brilliant life experience, which is to see peace and harmony between one another. I think we are aware with all that's happening in the world today, and currently what's happening in Sudan, the Ukraine still, it's heartbreaking. And so you think, how can we be making progress? And that's when I'll sometimes think life is more a pile of shh than it is anything else. But what if we can imagine that there's something that we're learning from this, and that from that we might be able to advance as a culture and as a race because of lessons that we need to learn? And is it simply perspective? If we start from a place where we always imagine everything's going wrong, the world's out to get us, there's never going to be anything sacred, what kind of mind space are we cultivating and promoting? Versus what if we are in the place where we say, I don't like this, I'm not sure why this has happened, but maybe there's something to learn here. Maybe there's something that we can deeply feel about this and create change. So I'll offer that as a starting point. And I like when these can be conversational. I just sort of like to stimulate it a little bit with some thoughts. And why don't we open it up, at least for the moment, to say hello from Vitasha and Lars. Vitasha's been with the Empower Hours all last year when they started in January 2022. And I've enjoyed Vitasha's perspectives and little spicy notes that are brought to these Empower Hours. So I'm glad you could make it. And Lars has been joining on and off also through the period that these have been happening. And it's fun to get to have you in this space. And also Lars is in class this morning. And I really feel this is an important part of a yoga practice and a life practice. So thanks for both being here. Vitasha, why don't you say a hello?
Hello. I'm really very interested in today's topic. Um, because I honestly, the more I advance into my yogic practice, the more I understand the connection of not just the food that we eat, the practice that we move our bodies in, but also the words that we say in the universe. They're all connected in some sort of way. And they kind of teach us the lessons that we need to learn to move forward with our lives. So I'm really excited about the perspective of today's discussion.
Cool. Thank you, Vitasha. And Lars, you can say hello.
Hello, hi Natasha, hi everyone. Thanks for including me, Mark. This is a good day to be included because I've got so much happening in my life and so many concerns that relate to what you're naming here. Where do I start? Yoga has yoga with you and yoga in Mukunda Studio has been like the a really good choice of medicine for me for being able to unwind symptoms of PTSD, symptoms of overwhelm while I'm in recovery. I'm like in my 8th month of recovery from a really intense addiction to IV ketamine, intramuscular ketamine. And before that, I was hooked on heroin and all kinds of shit. And, apparently my path is that of wounded healer. I give massage, I work with the public, and a lot of my work has been learning again and again boundaries with clients to not give more than I can because I have a lot of energy to share, and also to know when to come inside, focus on maybe one thing, and work on restoration of my balance and groundedness. So doing the poses and learning and bringing myself back because I'm always going into problem solving. I'm always going into issues when I go away and dissociate. Where I go is really intense. This morning's New York Times column about the kind of emerging H5N1 bird flu, which is killing all kinds of wild birds across the gamut, eagles and owls, and it's all can be traced back to factory farming chicken, and diseases come and go, and this one is a zoonotic that could jump into us, and it just it so speaks to me to the value of being conscious and aware and noticing. And then I also go into my own frustration with the slowness of my waking up, and I want to also just share that yesterday was an intense day because I went to the artists and creatives in recovery meeting at the Castro Country Club, which is this great 12-step based recovery community. Mainly gay men show up there, but everybody shows up there, and they asked me to speak, and so I was like, all right, yeah, I could probably go for 15 minutes because I was I stepped out of yoga class yesterday morning, and the first person I encountered was somebody smoking meth. The second person was somebody smoking meth, just stooped over and I thought of my friend Matthew because he passed away in January. That was his suffering. That was his thing. He was the most sensitive, generous, healing person. He put all of his energy into working with the most vulnerable in society, and he expired. And so I got to talk about that and share, and I wrote, and now I'm starting a practice that we bring up in this meeting of journaling for 30 minutes a day, meditation, movement, focusing on one thing, journaling. So I wrote about my experiences with Matthew. And then I went to Kabuki Springs and took a bath, and I came out and I had a text from the parents of a very dear friend who walks with me every week, and he just overdosed and died. He's my closest friend. He's trans. I could say so many things about Reese Charles Probst, but that was a shock because he was doing so great. And when we last walked, he was like better than ever, and I was like, I'm so proud of you. You're doing so great. You finally got off of methadone, finally got off of Suboxone. And I didn't, 4 days later, he must have felt the intensity of depression and just made a choice, and then gotten a hot shot containing fentanyl. So everything's connected. And I'm sorry to lay all that on you, but I think that these are really important times to step into power, because drugs and alcohol can remind us that we're powerless, and those habit patterns can extend to the way we interact with social media, the way we distance ourselves habitually. So this is a nice opportunity to share a little of my heart and my process with you. And in yoga this morning, I was like, oh my God, I interviewed Reese Chuck, who changed his name to Chuck, and I've got it on my camera so I can share this with his grieving parents. What a joy. So, and I'm sure that this share will ripple in a way, because I've got a lot of I've chosen the path of a peaceful warrior, and I've gone into my shadow and gone really deep, and I think that the healing is to reach into those shadow aspects that we all have but we don't want to look at, and find out what the learning is, how to turn it into creativity, imagination, and solutions for this world that needs us to wake up, stop eating chicken and stuff like that.
Wow.
Congratulations on your recovery, and my condolences to your friends that you've lost. Grief isn't easy in any way, in any form, and I know we all take it in our own ways. And I don't really know you personally, but I'm gonna say I'm happy that you're finding your way through this. That's a big thing, you know. But I 1000% get it. It's there for me personally. I think the importance of understanding that there is a link between everything that's going on with the world, and the society that we live in, and people needing a way of escaping, and trying to find their own way to deal with all of these things. And sometimes those tools just aren't available for everyone. And I know some people, they try, to find their own way. And I think honestly, all of it's just speaking to the world crisis that we keep finding ourselves in since 2020.
Yeah. Thank you, Vitasha. And Lars, thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable in this space with us. And I'm sorry to hear that too. I didn't know all that. And that's when I do feel like I will say out loud, life is a pile of crap. Because how can it be these beautiful people in the world who are meant to offer so much to others and even to the world at large, and then their life is cut short? And then you have other people who are full of crap, and that they get to, live and even have a political and professional life that influences people with all the negativity. And that's when I get really frustrated by the laws of life. Like, why would it go that way? And so that's when I find myself needing to look to something that helps give me reference. And that's where these yogic teachings and philosophy has been one of the few places that have given me a little bit of comfort when I feel that frustration. Why does someone have to go through that? Why does war keep being a solution? Why do so many people have to die mindlessly? And why do so many people have to be hurt um, and suffer? And that's where the teachings themselves explain, this course that we're on isn't um, a playful obstacle course. It's actually this difficult, painful obstacle course to wake us up to understand the immense depth of what it means to be on this planet. And what it means to be on this planet doesn't mean we can buy all these things and we're wearing this and we're, with these certain kinds of people and away from these kind of people. It means that we have to wake up to the fact that we're all here collectively. We have actually the beautiful gifts to be able to nurture and support one another in the most profound ways, but we just haven't figured that out yet. I
I
think
mean,
so.
honestly,
Go ahead, Vitasha.
I always like to take into consideration that we all live in this perfect world, right? So we wake up every day, we do exactly what we want to do. We enjoy our jobs, we eat whatever we want, and our bodies never suffer. And we breathe in perfect air and poop perfect poop. And there's absolutely no problems in the entire universe. And then what? It just sounds very fake. It sounds like a level of non depth. It sounds unrealistic. And I hate the whole pain and suffering brings truth and light, but it's really like if there's nothing wrong with your life, why would you ever change it? Why would you ever seek more? Why would you ever go look for the truth? You would just be complacent and at peace and at love and at happiness. And I feel like everyone who's ever reached that moment in their life, it's my personal philosophy that that is their point, that they're gone. They've done all they can do in this life and they're able to move wherever they want or wherever the universe says that they should go. And then the people that are crappy, the people that keep pushing poop around, those sort of people, they get opportunities after opportunities to be better people, to struggle, to try to make something better of their world, to go through something terrible, to maybe be a better person. And at the end of the day, you decide not to be a better person. The universe likes to keep giving you chances to try to be a better person until you're like, okay, we're done. Maybe next lifetime, so I like to think of it all as a cycle. Like you said, it's all a game that we're trying to get right, and it's the in-depth part is only ever going to be there for people who seek it. And if you have no reason to search for anything, you're going to be completely complacent where you're at. So I like to embrace the pain as much as I'm learning every day to enjoy more of my happiness and to hold on to it as tightly as possible, because I understand that these moments are not forever. They're not supposed to be. It's supposed to be brief. You're supposed to appreciate it. And you're also supposed to have those downtimes so you can appreciate the happy ones. We don't live in a universe that's just constant, because consistency and constancy does lead to complacency, and we cannot live in that world. It has to be the ups and downs so that we can keep moving and keep striving for more.
Right on, Vitasha.
Yeah,
Wow.
very wise. Yeah. And I would add, I think the turnaround that I've come to and is that when something shitty happens, to not take it as a reason to feel like a victim, because I think that that's become a bit of a fashion statement, you know, on social media and stuff. Is like, look what they did to me, look at me, I this happened to me and now I deserve this. And another dear friend of mine is in this horrible grief state right now. He lost his mom, he's lost his partner, he can't walk to the corner store because of the COPD, and everything is just dark, 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 and he will not let go of that. And I said, you know, you can stay with that, but what's working for me now, my turnaround with loss and grief, and especially dear ones and teachers and family who are no longer living, is you live in my heart. Thank you for what you've given, and it's not like you're being wrenched away or taken away, or something's being taken from me. And what a joyful, you know, turnaround, because on a somatic level, so much less heaviness, so much less pain, so much more freedom and expansion. And you know, everything is circular and in a cycle. This is not news to me, but I did have to like come to this realization through a lot of pain and a lot of ego mind misidentification. Basically, like, I can do this thing, what's it going to do? Oh, I wish I wasn't using this needle in my arm because it's plastic and it's garbage, and you know, this whole, I know the cycle and I still can't stop myself. But yeah, what you're saying is so true. Something in the universe gives us another chance, gives us another chance. And I think that the more consciousness we can all just keep on practicing. I had this other great yoga teacher, Ann Vandewater, at the end of each class. She would say, when you remember who you are and I remember who I am, we remember that we are one. And you know, that's just so, it's just so appropriate to what I hear in these recovery meetings I go to. I'm like, oh, that's my experience, you know. Oh wow, yeah. I used to think I was just a slave to my feelings and my mistaken victimhood, and now I see this is an opportunity to be of service. This is an opportunity to teach one another so we can all grow and hopefully have enough consciousness to help the world before before it's, you know. And I don't have any great hopes that we're not going to hit an apocalyptic situation one of these days soon. You know. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Natasha, we've talked.
No, I keep saying the same thing
Yeah.
all the time. I'm like, look, if we want to make something new, we got to burn what's currently there. Not like through fire, like, or war or any of that, but maybe just a peaceful rewriting of a couple of documents here and there, some treaties and some governments of society that can be rewritten. And maybe that'll change a lot of things. And maybe that's the apocalypse that we should be looking forward to, not fire raining from the sky.
I like it. My question for us and also the folks that are on Instagram Live, good to see you all. Dante, yay. Dante and I went to grade school and high school together, so cool to see you here. And I don't know the other folks, so I'm not able to. Lauren, hi Lauren, and the other person, Val, I think it is. Yeah, glad you're joining. My question for us is, we're talking here about having, you know, gone through some pretty awful things, or currently going through some awful things that are helping us reflect, that are helping us to, like Vitasha said, if we were just complacent with everything, we wouldn't search. Would you ever want to take away anything that you've been through in order to be where you are today? Or do you feel like those have been if not necessary, then very crucial to you having the perspective you do have today. So any thoughts on that from anybody that's coming up either in IG or land, or Natasha?
Oh yeah, every day. I like to do this thing where I pick apart every part of my life annually. It's like every year. And I say, well, what if? What if this thing did not happen to me? What if this thing happened to someone else? What if I was someone else that this thing never happened to, you know? And then who would I be? Would I be able to talk the way that I talk right now? No. I would be a different person. I wouldn't have such empathy with complete strangers. I wouldn't be able to know what someone else's pain actually feels like because I would have never experienced that pain, you know? Like I like to going all the way back to the whole earth situation, like being more vegan and everything. I always say I wish I could just stop eating meat and then everything would be great. But at the same time, I have to stop and recognize that my journey is how I got here. You know, maybe I'm not all the way there yet, but every step that I've taken has been in this direction to maybe not do this, but make this choice instead. So it's like I can't remove one piece because that one piece makes me who I am and it helps me to continue and further along my journey. It's like 1,000 building blocks in a horrible Jenga game. And if you just remove one, everything falls to pieces. And now who am I? I don't have an identity anymore.
That was awesome. Beautifully said. Did you have thoughts, Lars?
Well, I mean, I clearly, obviously, I regret when I've been unkind, when I've hurt people, and I know who I've been unkind to. I know where I could have done a better job, and you know, the gift of it, like you're saying, is to realize, this is what this is what real compassion is. This is what narcissism is, and you know, narcissism for me is defined by gaslighting, or defined by idealization, devaluement, or the third element is not understanding one's impact on the other. And I think that this has become a little in vogue through the platforms, through social media and stuff like that. We don't really see that we act in a selfish way. So I needed to have these really awful experiences where I was narcissistically wounded because my ex didn't wish me happy birthday, and I lashed out because I was drinking alone, and you know, wrote a horrible thing text wise. You know, I needed to learn this lesson so I can turn around, and here's the my dream is to treat the emerging AI like it's a child, like it's our kid brother, and instead of this potential looming overlord, and train it. This, you know, humans are flexible, humans are redeemable. We're not these fixed DSM categories, and this is how restoration and recovery and resilience works, and this is how love works. So you don't have to, you know, take that indication from the next head that wants to do something terrible to the world. You can learn from those of us who are resilient, and you know, that feels true, because I don't know about you guys, but the whole Facebook thing, like I just went into it and had a big community of people, and then pretty soon we were polarized because it was programmed to polarize us. And like, even around the Black Lives Matter, you know, I would get into a conversation, somebody was like, all lives matter. I was like, well, I guess maybe a middle way would be all beings matter, but you know, right there, like hooked, and right there, like already tribal and making camps, and feeling late, just heavy with shame. I think this is some of the healing that could happen in a ricocheting ripple effect, domino effect of goodness, if we learn how to refrain from tribalizing and polarizing and be more in connection, be more kind, and be more authentic and open and helpful and of service, like this podcast is being. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lars. I think I'm going to come back also to this relationship with the earth, and that what can we look at? And I like that you brought up the AI component too, so I want to touch on that a little bit. But what can we look at with the planet that can be our teacher? Is the planet sort of like Vitash was saying earlier, is the planet doing everything perfectly? Are all the waters flowing perfectly well? Are all the continents just breathing and feeling, good with everything going on with underneath the ocean? Is the air quality perfect everywhere? Is everything thriving and growing well on its own? Not everywhere. There are many things that we could call imbalances that are happening on the planet, but that the planet understands how to recover and how to work with what's happening. And then new systems are created organically because things need to shift. Climates change, water levels rise or lower. Things are melting, ice is melting, temperatures are shifting. So all of a sudden, things have to shift and evolve. And I think that that's what we can recognize for ourselves, is that we have the capacity to shift our perspectives. We have the capacity to be able to um, embrace one another for where we are right in the moment, rather than saying, well, you should be more like this, and you should be more like that, and you should be more evolved. We should do it more like this. And that's where I actually think we do get into trouble. I think there is a benefit, actually, of coming together in groups at times, because sometimes there is a weakness within a community. And certainly there are times I think we do need to elevate one another, and some of us do need to step back and allow others to have that time. Just like in nature, sometimes animals are going to recede from an area so that the land can recover. There needs to be some kind of uh, homeostasis that's found through re-evaluating the way that we create levels with one another. So I think we can learn from that. And I think where we get into trouble is when we have little epiphanies and we think everybody should have those same epiphanies. We're all on different waves of our own conscious awakening. And so that's my hope, is to imagine, how can we support all the various waves of awakening without thinking we should be further along, even ourselves. And I hear a little bit of that where we're like, I wish I was farther along than I am now. And I have had that all my life, where I'm like, I wish I could have had this experience. I wish it could have been 10 times more like this. Until I finally said, you know what? I got to have the experience I did get to have, and it was awesome. And I'm not going to say that it should have been better or worse, because it was what it was. And all I can do is focus on, what am I doing right now? How can I make the present moment lead me towards the next moment based on the wisdom that I've cultivated? And for me, it's almost more of a humbling, quieting, I'm trying to think of the right word. I'm thinking space making, like trying to make space for others rather than to fill up spaces. And that tends to be more what I get inspired by, because I recognize we all need space to have our own unfolding. And how can we make it as safe and loving and compassionate as we can, rather than making it accusing or limiting or shaming space. I think I've already felt a number of those myself as well. So I don't want to, my hope is not to create that for someone else.
I get that. So I like what you said about the nature. It's like nature doesn't exist in these huge extremes. We don't see tsunamis every day. We don't see a volcano every day. We don't see tornadoes every day. Everything kind of happens in its own balance and it kind of reaches its own balance. And if we can take that consideration of, uh, we're not going to talk about the ocean because they just all kill themselves there. Like they just eat and kill. Like that's a different thing. Maybe the upper world with like squirrels. Okay, not like the ocean because the ocean is scary. But the thing that I'm trying to say is that maybe we should find like a level of ease. Not like, oh my God, I'm gonna wake up every day and everything's gonna be perfect. Chances are it's not gonna happen. But chances are you're not gonna fall out the window and break your foot today. Maybe that won't happen today. You know, like you gotta appreciate the non-extremes. It doesn't have to be ultimate peace. It can't be ultimate misery. It just the I think the thing that I'm always striving is like a good middle ground. Like maybe I eat a slice of pizza and then I feel really awful. Or maybe I find out that cauliflower vegan pizza is actually really good and I eat that instead. You know, like there's a balance in everything. And I think that balance is not consistent over your own lifetime. I think it changes. So if I was 20 acting the same way that I act now, it would not fit me, you know? Like that's a different person. And I think we always have to understand that we exist in stages in that same way. Like feel like I'm talking about a thousand things at once. But we're like step stools, you know, as we grow. So the thing that fits you here when you're on this level could never have served you when you were down there on the other level. So you have to understand that in your growth point, you're finding the things that are fitting to you in the space and the time that you're currently residing in. I think that is the beauty of all of it. Like it's a beautiful day outside. There's trees, there's sunlight. I should be so happy to breathe fresh air and have clean water. And maybe just starting with like that little bit of gratitude, not saying that I have everything that I want, but I just have one or two things that are important to me and just holding very tight to those. And then whenever those leave me, being able to open my hands and letting that go. I think that is all of my yogic practice is just to understand that the medium is my happiness, you know?
Yeah, beautifully said.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Thinking a lot about the internal family systems model. As that when you said, you know, your 20-year-old self has different intentions than your here and now self. Um, I think that it's so easy to forget that we're here in the now in our medium selves and our compassionate, you know, conscious selves. And the word the term in IFS is that we blend with these older parts, or these parts that are protective or managers or exiled children who felt ashamed for even being born, or firefighters that come in and make us do the things that are destructive, to also feel safe. And the learning that I keep coming back to is, okay, I honor you, you're there, I don't need to blend with this, or if I am blending with you, as a 20-year-old self of mine, I now have more awareness and choice and trust to begin to realize that, to begin to build a gratitude practice, as a morning practice, rather than going into these scary stories in the New York Times that I know are unfolding. And so as I kind of build myself back into groundedness and balance through this talk, through your practice of yoga that I'm so grateful to learn, and also through learning how to do one thing at a time, learning how to realize that it's not about me, it's about us, and learning how to be of service. When I remember to go to and be of service, something feels right, something intuitively opens up and feels right. Last week it was I was passing out snacks to the unhoused in San Francisco, and this really sweet grandmother complimented my necklace, and I just got all teared up. And she said, "Oh, you need to go to the Native American Health Center on 16th and Cap. They have a drum circle there." And just my whole heart opened up. I'm like, wow, what, you know, this is the best medicine. I have urges and cravings to do drugs every day, but I'm like, no, you know, young part, you've had your fun there, and there's better ways to feel expansive and connected, that are good for everybody, and that's more important. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to go to a drum circle.
Oh,
That sounds
She wants to
I
go
wanna go to a drum circle. That sounds amazing.
I know.
Like, where do I find that? Like, how does
You got to come out here, Natasha.
I
No,
think best part of all of these things are always I wasted a lot of time doing things that I thought that I wanted to do, but
didn't
then there
waste
are so
time.
many other things. Like, I never been to a drum circle. Why? Like, can't we do that instead? I mean, it's fun to like put on hills and do things, but also, can I be barefoot and like listen to some whatever happens, you know?
Start one. Start one. Make it simple. Start small. Permaculture principles.
There we go. I'm having a little trouble with my phone here with Instagram folks. Hey, Tom, fun to have you join in. I wanted to touch back on what Natasha was talking about a moment ago with what's happening under the oceans also. And just to this concept that there is, when we talk about nature, and I catch myself sometimes, I over idealizing nature. Like, if we can just learn everything about nature, we could be more peaceful. Well, how about nature actually is pretty, yeah, vicious. It's all about, you know, hierarchy and who's the predator and who's the prey. So on a lot of levels, this is in our DNA. This is something that we have on a cellular level that we identify with, that there are going to be those that are going to get preyed on, and then there are the predators. And of course, we want to not have to be the one that gets eaten, so we do whatever we can. But what I appreciate about, so I think we learn a lot, and that can be also our teacher, where we see, oh yeah, this is a cycle. And not only is this a cycle on the very smallest level of, again, cellular activity, but this happens on all levels of, you know, from cells to beasts to humans. I think what is a little different for us is that we have a capacity to contemplate a different outcome. We know that killing one another, eating one another, not literally, mostly, that that's not the only solution for us to survive. Because if we only see ourselves as a limited physical body, then yes, we will eventually have to colonize and overtake one another in order to survive. But if we can recognize ourselves as spiritual beings that are having a human experience, we can eventually remember that we will merge with the collective conscience. We are each other, as Lars, you said, that teacher says in the end, when we remember this part of ourself, we remember who we truly are, we become one. And that, to me, is the power of a practice that leads us towards the greater understanding of the self beyond the physical limited self. There are the koshas in yoga, some of us know about this, where it's the sheaths of our being, the layers of our being, and the most gross layer, the most tangible and overemphasized layer in our culture is the physical body. But we also have the energy body, which is represented through breath, what we take in, what's being sent out. That's life-giving force to, you know, back and forth. Then we also have an emotional self, we have an intellectual self, and we have the bliss body. Those are all the subtle aspects of who we are. And if we can recognize the power of those, I think the goal is that we can make this physical body experience a more peaceful one, because we know that this is a limited one that has shortcomings. There will be the tendencies to do all the things we're seeing in the news and beyond, but we also have the tendency to heal, to recover, to have deeper compassion and greater empathy. So that's my hope, that kind of expansive view will become more normal rather than odd.
Mm, mm,
You
mm.
know, like, why are you like that? That doesn't seem right. Or why do you have that much empathy? Or why does your heart feel so much? Like, that's usually, delegated to somebody who's weak. But I think that that's somebody who's actually very powerful, trying to compensate for living in a very is that the right word? Uncompassionate world,
Or unconscious.
or unconscious.
Because what you guys uh, are demonstrating is conscious leadership, as I
Yeah.
see it, and I think that's really needed. On all levels, conscious leaders to be empowered to step forward. So thanks for that.
Yeah. Well, we're nearing the last few minutes of our Empower Hour, and I just want to acknowledge that this is exactly what I always hope for, is that we go in a bunch of different directions, and that it inspires some thought, certainly for those of us that have been chatting, but I hope for those of you that have been watching, just to spend a moment afterwards contemplating, what does this relationship between myself and my planet, between myself and my community, between myself and myself, what are some ways that I can strengthen the relationship, so that it's not focused on the external factors and material factors, but more on the subtle, quiet, introspective factors. That's something I want to leave us all with, and I'll let Natasha and Lars, if you have any thoughts you want to leave everyone with too. Take a moment. Yeah, Lars.
I feel like there's a lot shared there, so much that I want to watch this later. And I agree, like I'm going to take some minutes to ground and to center in this calm, compassionate, clear, courageous, other C words, part of myself that to just wrap up that IFS mini lesson is always present, and it's where we are in the here and now at any given time. There's that part that is just aware and not judgmental, and that brings me closer to just this, like, oh my God, everything's a system, and thank you for the opportunity to, like, keep learning that.
Thank you, Lars. Natasha, did you have any last thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I like the consideration of more work that I have to do and where I'm gonna have to go after this, is that I understand, and I think having conversations through this, I gain a higher level of understanding, which is like one of my personal hobbies, is trying to understand more. Um, and I understand that my level of work is to understand the energies that I put out may not come back to me directly, but they will eventually. And so I always have to be careful of what I consume, what I give out, because that determines the quality of my life.
Mm. Wow.
So yeah, I need a lot of meditation as well after conversations like this.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you all, for those of you that also joined and were able to be with us. And we do these once a month, Empower Hours, and the topic usually does focus on something related to that month. So this one being Earth Month. And then I think about how to connect them with some of the yoga philosophy and just practical ways to look at bringing in a spiritual lens to all of life. So take a moment, and if you can, reflect or do some journaling, and we'll do that here. But for now, it's our hour, and thank you for those that joined, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti.
All right.
The recordings.
Oh yeah.